The Iran-Iraq War, fought between 1980 and 1988, remains one of the longest and most destructive conflicts of the 20th century. The war caused immense devastation, leaving both countries economically crippled, altering the regional power dynamics, and impacting the broader Middle East for decades. Despite its significance, it has often been overshadowed by other major conflicts in the region. Yet, its implications are far-reaching and continue to shape the political landscape of the Middle East today. The roots of the war can be traced to the geopolitical changes in the region, particularly following the Iranian Revolution of 1979. The revolution, which led to the fall of the Shah of Iran and the establishment of the Islamic Republic under Ayatollah Khomeini, fundamentally altered the balance of power in the region. Iran's new regime, with its anti-Western stance and calls for the export of its revolutionary ideology, particularly threatened neighboring Sunni-majority regimes. The most immediate and vocal of these threats came from Saddam Hussein's Iraq, where the Shia-majority population feared the influence of Khomeini's brand of Islamic revolution. Saddam Hussein, who had seized power in Iraq in 1979, saw Khomeini's revolution as a direct challenge to his rule. Saddam feared that Iran's revolutionary ideas would inspire uprisings among Iraq's own Shia majority, threatening his authoritarian regime. Beyond the ideological and sectarian concerns, Saddam also had territorial ambitions, particularly over the Shatt al-Arab waterway, a critical route for oil exports. This waterway is of immense economic importance, as it allows access to the Persian Gulf and is vital for oil exports from both nations. As tensions between the two countries escalated, Saddam Hussein saw an opportunity to strike. With the revolutionary chaos in Iran, he believed that a quick military campaign could cripple Iran's ability to defend itself. On September 22, 1980, Iraq launched a surprise invasion of Iran, marking the beginning of the Iran-Iraq War. When the Iraqi forces crossed into Iranian territory, they initially made significant gains, capturing key cities along the border, including Khorramshahr and Abadan. The Iraqis expected a quick and decisive victory, believing that Iran, which was still in the process of consolidating power after the revolution, would be unable to defend itself effectively. However, this assumption proved to be gravely wrong. Iran's new leadership under Khomeini used the invasion to rally the Iranian people, framing the conflict as a holy war to protect the Islamic Republic. The regime, though initially disorganized, quickly mobilized its military and paramilitary forces. Iran called up volunteers to defend the country, including young men and teenagers who became part of the infamous human wave attacks that would characterize much of the war. Despite facing severe shortages in equipment and training, Iran managed to recapture several of the key cities taken by Iraq. By early 1981, the war had turned into a bloody stalemate. Iraq's initial advances were halted, and the front lines began to solidify. Iran's resilience, combined with its use of vast human resources, ensured that Iraq could not achieve a quick victory. For the next several years, the war would be characterized by entrenched trench warfare, with both sides fighting for control over key border regions, particularly the oil-rich Khuzestan province. As the war dragged on, the violence escalated and both sides resorted to increasingly brutal tactics. Iraq, under Saddam Hussein's direction, began using chemical weapons against Iranian troops and civilians. This was a violation of international law, but Iraq's strategic use of chemical agents like mustard gas and nerve agents was seen as a way to counter Iran's superior manpower. The use of chemical weapons became one of the most horrifying aspects of the war, with both Iran and Iraq suffering heavy casualties from the attacks. By 1984, the conflict had spread beyond the borders of Iraq and Iran. Both countries turned their attention to disrupting each other's oil exports. In what became known as the Tanker War, both Iran and Iraq attacked each other's oil tankers in the Persian Gulf, damaging ships and severely disrupting global oil markets. The U.S. deployed naval forces to protect shipping lanes in the Gulf and engaged in occasional skirmishes with Iranian forces. While the U.S. provided covert support to Iraq, including intelligence and weaponry, it also played a complex role in the broader Middle East. Iran, despite being locked in a bitter struggle with Iraq, continued to receive limited support from other global powers, including Israel, which saw Saddam as the more immediate regional threat. This web of alliances and rivalries transformed the war into a proxy battle for influence in the Middle East. After 8 years of relentless combat, both nations were exhausted. The United Nations brokered a ceasefire in August 1988, restoring pre-war borders. Yet, the war left devastating legacies. Estimates suggest over 1 million people were killed or injured, with countless others displaced. The economic toll was equally staggering, with both Iran and Iraq emerging from the conflict severely weakened. For Iraq, the burden of war debts to Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait would set the stage for the invasion of Kuwait in 1990, leading to the Gulf War. The Iran-Iraq War reshaped the Middle East in profound ways. For Iran, the conflict entrenched its hostility toward the United States and reinforced its pursuit of self-reliance in defense and technology. This period also saw the consolidation of power by hardliners within the Islamic Republic, who viewed external forces as perpetual threats. In Iraq, Saddam's regime, though victorious in propaganda, emerged militarily and economically weakened, sowing the seeds of future conflicts. The Iran-Iraq War had profound implications beyond the battlefield. Both nations suffered economically, and the impact on civilians was devastating. The war entrenched political ideologies that would shape both Iran and Iraq for decades to come. Saddam Hussein's Iraq was left isolated, deeply in debt, and burdened with the cost of war. In the years following the conflict, Saddam turned his attention toward neighboring Kuwait, an action that would lead to the Gulf War in 1990. For Iran, the war solidified the authority of Khomeini's government and shaped the nation's approach to foreign policy, particularly its relations with the West and the U.S. The war also exacerbated sectarian divides within the region. In Iraq, Saddam's regime was Sunni-dominated, and its brutal suppression of Iraq's Shia population left long-lasting animosities. Iran, with its Shia leadership, became a regional power with an agenda that sometimes clashed with Sunni-majority nations. This rivalry between Iran and Sunni powers like Saudi Arabia would continue to shape conflicts across the Middle East, from Syria to Yemen. The legacy of the war can still be seen in the ongoing sectarian conflicts and power struggles that affect the region today. The Iran-Iraq War may often be forgotten in global discussions, but its impact on the Middle East is undeniable. The war reshaped the region's geopolitics, entrenching a rivalry between Iran and Iraq, destabilizing both nations, and providing a fertile ground for future conflicts. The consequences of the war are still felt today, with the political, social, and economic fallout continuing to reverberate across the Middle East. It serves as a reminder of how ideology, ambition, and sectarianism can fuel conflicts that devastate entire nations and alter the course of history. The lessons of the Iran-Iraq War remain relevant, particularly in how external powers engage in conflicts that are deeply rooted in local politics. The complexity of the war, the alliances formed, and the destruction wrought on civilian populations reflect the enduring consequences of regional and global interventions in the Middle East. As the region continues to navigate a troubled path, the ghosts of the Iran-Iraq War still linger, reminding the world of the high cost of prolonged conflict.